on this computer. I have Brian White, and it's just a thrill a minute for another fireside chat. Another fireside chat, Brian. I felt I needed a new background. I can't come up with a new name, so at least I thought maybe if I had a little different studio.
Could I recommend Lemon Tree? It's remarkably divisive in the comments.
Is it?
It
But,
really
but
is.
every time I see it, I want to sing. Lemon tree, very pretty. And oh, yes. And our crowd gets that. My crowd gets that. I don't know about your crowd. My crowd is
Oh, no.
55 to 75 years old, and it's 100% men. And
Wow.
I don't know whether women liked Lemon Tree as a song or not, but I know guys did. They really thought that was cool. Yeah.
All right.
So, Brian, what I want to talk to you about this morning is my market mover list. Now, I could call it a catalyst list. Every time I've ever put catalyst in the title or the thumbnail, it's gotten 3 views. I don't know why. I don't, but my crowd, my audience, you folks out there, I don't know why you don't like the word catalyst. Some people have changed the word catalyst. Have you seen that, Brian, to catalyst?
Oh, clever. I thought you were going to change it to Lemon Tree.
Maybe that would sell more video views. I'm not sure. I'm always all about that. So I have this market mover list, and the idea is that these are things that affect not only today or tomorrow, they affect the fundamentals, and therefore they might move the market slowly over time, as opposed to just moving at 10 points in a day or two. So I'd like to have you chime in and let me know if any of these things you agree with me that they could move the market. Is that good? Can we do that?
I think that sounds like a very good idea.
All right, let's take a look at number one. And there's 10 of these, by the way. Number
Oh,
one.
man.
Okay, number one. I think that increasing talk by major media and also thought leaders and also companies that are in the robot space or think they should be in the robot space or that are thinking about maybe AI and how that affects robots. And in other words, what we've got here is the the temperature of the interest in humanoid robotics is going up, 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 up slowly. And I think that slow increase means that smart investors will start to think about getting invested in the humanoid robot space somehow, some way, either privately in other companies and companies that are bigger, but that's a piece of what they do. They're going to be looking for an opportunity to be part of it because it's getting bigger and bigger and more interesting. Do you think that could move the Tesla stock in a nice, slow way?
I think that's a very reasonable assumption. Early in the EV transition, we saw a lot of pushback against just the idea of EVs. People hadn't driven them, they hadn't experienced them. And a lot of people who had experiences with things like the Nissan Leaf. It's not an exciting car, it's not a pretty car. There is no my Tesla Leaf or my Nissan Leaf weekend. That's not a thing. And even with other brands that do make exciting, compelling cars, they struggle to get traction with other brands because they're just not as exciting. But year over year, there's a survey. How likely are you to consider an electric car for your next car? And every year that number increases. And some people look at it the wrong way and say, oh, look, 40% of people have no plans to buy an electric car for their next car. So 60% do. They're only at 9% penetration in the US. That's amazing. That's fantastic. And I see bots being the same thing. The idea today is very foreign and weird, but these stories are a lot of fun for the media to make. They're easy stories, they're fun, they're exciting, they're futuristic, and there are enough brands participating that it's not like oh, you guys are just keep running stories about Tesla bots. No, we're covering all the other bots too, because they're all exciting. And I think that's going to really aid the overcoming the psychological barrier of these are too weird. And I think by the time bots are widely available, it'll be kind of no big deal that somebody might have one at their office or their home.
Yeah.
So I think you're right, is what I'm saying. This is something that is already underway that is going to allow the market to adopt them as quickly as possible without significant pushback. And Tesla will be among the better poised companies to capitalize on it, to put it mildly.
Mildly. And investors will therefore start looking for, how do I get into that? Kind of like after Tesla became a thing, everybody started saying, who is the next Tesla? What can I do in order to improve my chances of being part of the EV revolution? Now that I've stupidly waited this long, can I still get in on it somehow? That's kind of the theory I have there.
I will add to that, when NASA launched their first crewed mission aboard a SpaceX rocket, it was a big deal. They brought out all the cameras, all the camera crews, all the news media, and the astronauts packed into a pair of Model X's, drove to the launch pad, and successfully went to space as intended. And the next day, Tesla stock was up. Why? Because you can't buy SpaceX stock on the open market. And I want a piece of that. I want a piece of this. And when it comes time, when someone says, you know what, I think I need to make a robotics play, it's an easy robotics play to make.
Right, right. So I am, so moving on to number 2. I think there will be a dramatic increase in profits from energy storage over the year. So each quarter is just going to get more and more and more. And I think that is also not only going to give little ticks to the market as people start to understand the story more, but that it's also increasing the fundamentals, and that'll increase the stock. So this is another one of these market movers over time. What do you think?
Absolutely. The energy storage, when you talk about mega packs, there is a long lead time between the time you pay for your goods and the time you are paid for your goods, because it is a big project. And in a lot of cases, so you've got, let's say, a couple weeks to make it, a couple weeks to ship it, but then you've got an unknown amount of time to get it installed and a lot longer time to get it permitted and activated. And I can't imagine that all of these companies are paying when it leaves the factory door. That's not how it works. You might get a partial payment, you might get a half payment. This is a flywheel, and it is being spun up. People were looking at the numbers for Megapack, for stationary energy revenue and profits from Q4 and saying, wait a minute, these numbers are much lower than I expected. And I said, yes, because you've got billions of dollars in outstanding accounts here. And just recently, there was a new Megapack installation that Bradford Ferguson pointed out that was, I want to say, 700 units, something outrageous like that. And you look at that and you go, ooh, that's like $1 billion. It might have been 500 units. It was massive.
Yeah.
They haven't been paid for that. Over time, right now, a substantial percentage of all the mega packs ever made have not been paid in full because they just started making them
Right.
at this kind of volume. And so as time goes on, the percentage of all the mega packs ever made that have been paid in full will continue to increase, approaching 100% and never reaching it. So that those numbers can only increase. Those hit the financials as revenue, as profit. And when they do, it'll become more and more apparent over time. I think you're absolutely right on this one. I can't believe it. Randy got one right.
Number 3. Number 3 would be clarity that the 4680 is at 25 gigawatts, and then later that it's at 50 gigawatts. In other words, right now, when you say, oh, we hit a million units or 10 million, nobody, they can't understand that. But at some point, they're going to come out and say, we are now producing 25 gigawatt hours of batteries. And then sometime later, they're going to say, we're now producing a run rate of 50 gigawatt hours. When these things happen, when we hit these markers, these are going to be things that start to wake up the public again. It won't be like $10 in one day. It'll be like, oh, they're big in the battery business.
So I would soften it even a bit from there. I don't think people know where the parts of their car come from, and I don't think they care. As evidence of this, I can tell you with reasonable certainty which batteries are in my car, but not absolute certainty because I've never checked because I don't care. Jan from TeslaFix has a made in China Model 3 refresh. And I asked him, do you have the BYD blade batteries or do you have the CATL batteries? And he said, I don't know. I never checked. Why would he check? So I don't think the customers care. Now we've got to talk about the analysts. Do they care? And I don't think they care where they're made. I think they care what they cost. And if Tesla's plan is executed as expected, the cost will come down and more money will be showing up on the back end as reduced cost of goods sold, as credits paid for domestic production of batteries. And all of that will hit the financials and slowly allow the stock to appreciate. Or more likely, I think Tesla will just keep cutting prices and making the cars cheaper so that that benefit may not show up as materially as some of the others on this list.
Other than the fact that you'll cut the price and maintain the margins. So either
Yes.
way, you get the benefit. Number 4, Cybertruck finally hitting mainstream media news, like the late night shows or the SNL show or any kinds of things other, because right now, it's crazy that the Cybertruck has basically only been shown in the new media, YouTube, X,
TikTok and all those,
Reddit,
sure.
Those kinds of things. That's where you're seeing the Cybertruck so far, but the mainstream media has not covered it a whit. And I'm saying that when it finally gets so big, so many units out there and so much talk about it, at some point, the New York Times, the Washington Post, et cetera, they're going to have to start talking about it, and that will impact the stock.
So I struggle to speak to this because I don't consume that kind of media. I only get new media. For real. So people will complain, oh my gosh, there's this commercial on TV that's driving me crazy. And I say, what are you, why would you endure that? That sounds awful. So I don't know about that. And I don't know that they're ignoring it or that they would give it attention. It's just going to be a thing. It is still a showstopper everywhere you go. It's the Chicago Auto Show that just happened, and they had a Cybertruck on display. This is a car that's already sold hundreds, thousands of units, that's already on the road, that's already all over the internet, all over social media, and it still draws a crowd. Do you know how hard it is for a current production model vehicle to draw a crowd? It is unheard of. And when I went to the Cybertruck to see the Cybertruck in person over the weekend, where I got to sit in one and live stream it, my live stream did not perform well. Enough people on new media have already seen enough coverage that they didn't feel the need to see a little bit more. But there were people in the showroom who heard about it, who got the announcement or whatever and decided to come in. And they came from hours and hours away, just to see the inside of something that they had already seen the outside of. And the takeaway was, yeah, it's a Tesla. It's just a Tesla. I'm still glad I drove 3 hours to get here. I got up at, my buddy Ryan got up at 6 o'clock in the morning. He left his house at 6 in the morning so we could get there by 9 o'clock. And he was glad that he did. It was a lot of fun. This is an undeniable showstopper. It will filter into these things. It will be something that next season we'll be seeing on a variety of TV shows, even just not as a main character, but just as a thing that exists in the background, because it is unstoppable. I saw a real estate listing someone posted on X saying, look at this beautiful dream home. Oh, and also they photoshopped in a Cybertruck in the driveway.
Yeah.
So it is entering the consciousness, and I cannot help but think that is going to improve the profile of the company overall.
Right. Okay. So then 5 Gigamex groundbreaking and update. So the groundbreaking itself might have a little bit of an effort. People pay a little attention, but it's going to be the updates. It'll be this is when we now expect it to be complete, some kind of an estimate. This is when we begin to have cars produced out of it. Those are going to be the updates that I think will, again, slowly, this is not going to be $10 in one day type thing, but it'll slowly but surely increase investment in Tesla.
when we see these new factories being built, it is something that they can't help but take notice. It is something where you could say, well, the promise of the compact is coming, but you can't build it at a meaningful scale without a factory. Where's the factory? Now, my question would be, who could possibly look at just a handful of construction metrics and give you an accurate prediction as to when a factory would be complete, Randy? Why, I know of only one person who's ever done that successfully.
Future
Arizona A. No, it is. I tracked the progress in Texas, and that was the thing that my channel was known for early on, is I was counting sticks, I was counting measurements, and what I had done was I looked at all the different factors. I had to decide which elements were worth counting and which weren't, and then create models and then regress them based on other factory progress to determine a speed that made sense and actually stood a chance of holding up. And for the longest time, people said I was crazy and I didn't know what I was doing because I was way off in one direction or the other. And in the end, I got to within about 2 weeks of actually getting it right. So I will be tracking the Mexico factory, even though it is far too much work and I'm not excited.
I see. Number 6, evidence that overall U.S. sales are better than 2.1 this year. So again, it will be a slow drip. Troy Tesla came out this morning and reduced his number for the first quarter again, because he says the Model 3 numbers coming out of Fremont are not that great so far. So the production just isn't there yet. But most people, I think right now the street believes it's going to be around 2.1 million this year. If we start to see clear evidence that it's going to be 2.15 or 2.2, that this will move the stock up fairly nicely.
I think that is a safe assumption. Troy's numbers have a lot of noise, and his misses have sometimes been a bit legendary. But on this one, I don't think he's wrong. We watched the drone footage. He and I watched the same drone footage. And what we saw on the last update was the outbound logistics lot did not have the number of Model 3s that we expected. Counting cars from the sky is a very imprecise metric, but if they were going gangbusters, there would be no time of the week that you could go by and see a quiet outbound logistics lot. It just wouldn't happen. It is possible that was the one afternoon or one morning that it was quiet. It is unlikely. So I think Troy's assumption that Model 3 refresh production is going slower than expected is accurate. And I do think that if we see clear guidance, and I don't mean guidance, I mean clear quarterly numbers at the end of Q1, at the end of Q2 that says, no, guys, we are up year over year, that this would be the sort of thing that especially institutional investors would look at and say, the growth story is not over in this market. We know it's not over globally, but even in this market, even without new models, it is still going forward. So I think you're right on that one.
Okay. Number 7, if the company were to offer Dojo as a service with details of what that actually means sometime later this year, maybe on an AI day, maybe on a reveal day, but some kind of a thing where in this market where AI, I'm talking about the investing market right now, where AI is all the talk, where everything is about AI. If Elon came out and said, yep, we've made the decision, we've got enough compute now, and we're going to do Dojo as a service. Now that would probably, in my opinion, would move the market that day to some degree, but over time, I think it would be a nice steady increase as they actually executed.
So I don't believe Dojo is going to be at a scale in 2024 that would allow them any excess capacity to allow anyone else to use it. I'm not sure that Dojo itself will be rolled out entirely. And I think that's why we're still seeing so many Nvidia chips being purchased by Tesla. So I don't, would that move the stock? Yeah, maybe that would be something where the AI play investors would start to look more seriously at Tesla and understand the value proposition. I don't see it happening in 24 and probably not 25 either.
So you did hear that Elon said that he's going to have excess compute later this year.
I know that he said that. I don't believe it, because anytime the show me a company that ever reached excess compute. The answer is only the cloud computing companies, and that's because that's their whole business, is having excess compute.
Right.
But you look at the amount of computers that Pixar used for their first movie, Toy Story, and then every movie after that. And they said, boy, computers keep getting faster. Pretty soon we'll only need a handful. But every movie, they just keep using more and more compute because it's worth it.
Yeah, we've seen that in all aspects of our life using computers. So number 8, a Generation 3 vehicle reveal. Now that's another one that would probably cause the market to go up on the day that it happens and the day after, etc. But again, because you have the reveal and then you have the execution, I see it as also a long-term, just continuous improvement in the numbers.
I think we would see an announcement that in a week, there's going to be a big event in Austin. Come show up for it. I think for the previous month or two, we would have seen little Easter eggs from the drone footage telling us what we might be expecting. I think from the announcement up until the actual event, the stock would run up like crazy. And then, of course, buy the rumors, sell the news, it would tank the next day and then slowly recover. But I think having a solid idea of what the Gen 3 vehicle is would absolutely help the stock over the longer term.
All right. And finally, number 9. I'm only on 9 here. A new Tesla semi reveal with projected sales targets and prices, etc. Because we've never had a price. They've never told us what the price is going to be. So this would be a reveal showing all the changes and all the new things that they've put in it because of their relationship with Pepsi, what they've learned, how they've improved it on so many different levels. And then here's when we're going to start building it. And here's what the price is going to be and what its capacities are.
I don't know that they're going to do that event. I think they've done too many semi events with not enough semis. And I think that when this comes out, it'll just come out. And the price, I mean, you know what they always say, Randy? If you have to ask the price, you're not Frito-Lay. Isn't that how they say it?
That's it.
I think it would be valuable to know the price. I think when initial sales start, they're going to be handling it exclusively through fleet systems, where they're going to say, hey, Walmart, you wanted these, right? Let's get mega chargers out to your locations and sell you a specific number of trucks for a specific set of routes. And that I think they would do it that way, because to just make them available to anyone means, well, now we need a mega charger network coast to coast. That's an investment. That's a huge investment. Let's let that trickle out on its own. Let's see if Pilot and all the other Flying J in them and want to actually build it themselves, rather than us having to go it alone, or even in partnership. I mean, can we just let someone else do it? Because it's a possibility that those big companies would be more interested in getting that business themselves. But putting in that kind of juice, even if you've got a substation nearby, is going to be difficult and costly. So I think having destination chargers is the way to go. And so it won't require an event, and it won't be exciting, and it won't need to be exciting. So I think just having the factory done and the production ongoing would be enough. And I don't think we're going to see serious volume moving out this year.
So one of the things that I commonly have talked about over the last 6 or 7 months about semi-truck is that every semi-truck is the same profit as 4 Model 3s or 4 Model Ys. When it comes to the next gen vehicle, every semi-truck will be worth 8 next gen vehicles in terms of profit. And a lot of people don't pay much attention to this when I talk about it, but the semi-truck is going to be $200,000 to $250,000 each. So you're talking about 8 times a $25,000 vehicle. So it would seem like wise investors, if they can see the reality, if they can and it may be like energy. They may not get the point until there's enough of them happening to make a play, but there's another play there. There's a play in the electric semi-truck business. And once it comes out, at some point, something is going to cause people to want to be in it.
So there's a, yeah, there is a trick there. You said it's 4 Model Ys of profit and 8 compacts of profit, but it's 10 Model Ys of batteries. So that becomes a balancing act. And I think that's why we've seen them slow down on it, is it's not just 10 Ys of batteries, it's 10 Model Ys of IRA credits for the customers. It's $75,000 just in federal credits, just at the federal level, to say nothing of state incentives as well. But those you could probably get from batteries regardless of their origin. So I think there's Elon had said twice in 2022 that they were not battery constrained.
Yes.
But I didn't believe it then, and I don't believe it now. It's not just having enough batteries, it's having enough of the right kind of batteries from the right places at the right time. And I think cell constraints are it. I think they were planning to have the 4680 in Texas ramped to the point where it could handle all the Model Ys and all the Cybertrucks. It can barely handle the Cybertrucks, and the Cybertrucks are at low volume, and it can't handle the 4680s, even though we know that they built some with it. They have the ability to do it. They don't have the capacity to do it. So those 2170s from Nevada were rerouted to Texas, and that meant all those batteries that are going into Model Ys made in Texas cannot go into semis. Panasonic surely is increasing output. If they're not, they'd be wise to get on that. We know they're going to expand that factory, that their part of it will grow. And I think their only hesitation is making sure that the battery subsidy will still be in place next year.
Yeah. All right. And finally, number 10, a run rate of 1,000 Cybertrucks per week. Now, you can break that up if you want to. You can say, listen, I think it'll move the market when it's 500 a week, or you can say, no, it's not going to move it until it is at 3,000 a week. Anyway, at some point, the stock market is going to go, okay, they're pushing out a lot of Cybertrucks, and it's time to jump on this baby.
So help me out, Randy. 1,000 a week. What's that on a daily basis? Like 130?
What?
Something like 130-ish?
130, yes.
Ish.
Ish.
I don't know if you saw the drone footage a couple days ago. There was something like 80 Cybertrucks on the lot on that day.
Right.
It is possible that no trucks arrived to pick them up that day. It is also possible that that their run rate is already 80. So we are getting real close. That 1,000 a week is within sight. Now, I don't think the market cares what the actual number is. I think they care what the result is. And if there are 1,000 a week going out to showrooms, to customers, to shows, to everywhere that a car like that would go, it becomes impossible to ignore. I've heard conflicting rumors that at the Portland Auto Show this week, where I will be attending as a volunteer on both Thursday and Saturday, I believe, there will be a Cybertruck. I know there's heavy wranglings to make it happen, and it is not entirely clear because the Portland Auto Show wants a ton of money and Tesla wants to pay as little as possible to be there. A car like that, you got to have it there, guys. You got to have it. It's an auto show, for crying out loud.
Right.
So it would be pretty interesting to see if they could, just having them out, regardless of what the actual number is, just having enough of them in people's faces will send the same message.
All right. Well, that's my 10. Thank you for agreeing that I was right on, I don't know, 7 or 8 of them anyway. So maybe I got a C plus.
A gentleman's C plus.
A gentleman's C plus. Yes. So
a perfect 98 on your IQ test.
Thank you so much for all the help that you're giving in terms of my reputation, at least. Thank you. So, Brian, as it is commonly true, we've done it again. We finished another video, And maybe a few people watched it. And if they did, we want them to thank you by going over to uh, help me out. Future
Futuraza.
Aza.
Futuraza.
I do that on purpose, right?
Oh, do you?
Yes,
Do
I
you?
forget it. Yes, it's part of a way to make people remember your name. Is if I'm
Oh,
confused by it and I say it wrong and other ways, people in their head are going, "No, Randy, no, Randy, it's Futuraza, Futuraza." See, it helps them to remember.
that's funny. I love it.
Did you know that trick?
I knew the trick of there was a real rash of news anchors saying their names with weird pauses in them. And for KTOK, I'm Brian White. Why did Brian White say it like that? Aha, boom, gotcha.
Yeah, I had the very first real company that I had a part in was Abus, ABUS. Okay, it's a padlock company. Actually, either the largest or the second largest padlock company in the world, out of Germany, of course. And Abus spelled kind of weird, you know. And when people first saw it, it was like, how do you get that brand in people's mind? And so I went and I did this advertising series where I said, is it a bus? Is it a bus? Is it Abus? And anyway, played with the name over and over and over again. And of course, what happened? Then people got playing with the name and they came to recognize the brand. And
People
anyway,
got
that's
annoyed and that stuck in their head, and that still counts.
annoying is okay. Otherwise, you and I would be out of
What
job.
would what would we be doing all day if not annoying those poor 8 people who made it this far in the video? And if you did make it this far in the video, I would like you to leave a comment for Randy, because I check those comments too. It's a lot of fun. There are people who have been so hostile on my channel that I had to mute them, who still follow me around the rest of the internet and leave comments. So that's great.
All right, Brian White of Futuraza. It has been great having you as always, and to all of you who are still here.
To both of you.
It's been great talking to you.